Thanks for joining us on another edition of You're Included, the unique interview series devoted to practical implications of Trinitarian theology in today's complex world. Our guest today is Dr. Andrew Root, Assistant Professor of Youth and Family Ministry at Luther Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota. He's the author of Revisiting Relational Youth Ministry from a Strategy of Influence to a Theology of Incarnation, and Relationships Unfiltered.
I think one of the things that your question and comment points to that's helpful for me is maybe to boil it down. The thing that we haven't dwelled in enough is this question, where is God? Where do we encounter God? Which is, I think, one of the central elements of a Trinitarian theology, is that God encounters us, and God reveals God's self. And as God reveals God's self in Jesus Christ, we're taken into this Trinitarian reality. So I'll tell you a story, which I think often is the trap that we fall into in ministry. My son is 4, moving towards 5, and he's a great little existential philosopher and theologian, probably because I've terribly warped him. But one night I was putting him to bed. It's my job to put him to bed, and of course it's right before I go and watch TV when I put him to bed, so I'm always trying to hustle him off to bed so I can go and relax in front of the TV. But one night I was putting him to bed, and he started to, he said he was scared, and he was scared that there was a nightmare in his closet. So I had told him, well, you don't need to be afraid of this. There's no nightmare in your closet. And I said, well, Jesus is with you. You don't need to be scared because Jesus is with you. And he said, no, there's a nightmare in my closet. I'm scared of this. And I said, well, Owen, you don't have to be scared. There's no nightmare in your closet. And I opened the door and, of course, turned on the light. And he was satisfied that there was no nightmare in his closet. But as soon as I turned off the lights and shut the door again, he said, it's back. The nightmare is back in my closet. And I said, well, you can pray to Jesus and it will be okay. Jesus will be here with you and you don't have to be afraid. So we prayed for a little bit, and he said, but where is Jesus? And I said, well, Jesus is here. If you pray, Jesus will be here. But I don't see Jesus. Where is Jesus? And I said, well, he's here with you, but I'm scared. There's a nightmare in my closet, and where is Jesus? And of course, now I'm starting to say, well, if you pray, Jesus will be here, and you don't have to be afraid, and Jesus will keep you from bad things happening. And I'm starting to doubt myself as I'm saying this. But then in just earnest desire to comprehend something, he says, but I don't see Jesus, and I'm scared. Where is Jesus? And then in just the profundity of a 4-year-old, he says, Jesus is not here. Jesus is not here. And of course, I said some prayer and left, but the more that when I left, and I kind of satisfied him so he wasn't crying anymore, but that is really the question, where is Jesus? And often kids live with nightmares in their closet, and we all do. And too often we want to say, well, Jesus is here. And if you pray to Jesus, the nightmare will go away. But one of the theological elements that I'm trying to develop more and more is, how do we answer this question, where is Jesus, or where is God? And I think that there's something in this story of this God who becomes incarnate in Jesus Christ that reflects to us the full life of God as Trinitarian, that God becomes present next to darkness, next to brokenness, next to pain. And too often in youth ministry, we see shiny, happy kids as the sign that our ministries are going well. And they actually become the sign of authentic adolescent faith. Kids who things are going pretty well for. And I don't want to belittle those kids, but often what it does is it perpetuates this idea that to be a Christian means that you have it together. And it leads us away from this question, where is God? Where is this God of the cross found? Where is this God who cries out to his Father on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? And hears nothing. Where is this God? Well, if our models of great adolescent faith are just the shiny, happy kids, then what about all those kids that know that question deep in their being? But the church never helps them articulate it. And Christian Smith has done this study, the National Study on Youth and Religion, that soul-searching came out of this book that's been quite famous about teenage religiosity and faith. And one of the overwhelming findings of that book was simply that kids don't know anything about their faith. They know very little about any of the theological components of their faith. They can barely articulate what it means to follow Jesus. And I wonder often if the reason that is because it doesn't matter to those kids. Those kids often are the shiny, happy kids that things are going well for, and we point to them as the models of good adolescent faith. But of course, they don't need to, as Anselm would say, really dig into faith-seeking understanding, because things are unfolding okay for them.
For now.
For now, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is the real disservice we do to them,
Yeah.
because they go to college, they go
Yeah.
into young adulthood, and then things don't go right for them.
Totally disillusioned.
And they don't have a theological lens to
Yeah.
see their reality where God is present in it. So one of the theological elements I'm trying to work out for youth ministry and ministry for the church in general is, how do we answer this question, where is God? And I think there's a deeply Trinitarian element about that. But it's also this assertion that God encounters us in darkness, in brokenness, in yearning, because God is reflected to us in Jesus Christ on the cross.